after Lindsey Graham passed away, we then see news from Mitch McConnell, yes, the long-term senator from Kentucky, who famously, for those of you may remember, made sure to not give President Obama's Supreme Court nomination a fair hearing. So I bring that context into this next conversation because on Sunday, July 12th, we saw Mitch McConnell release a photo of him in the hospital with his wife, Elaine Chao. Now, for those just catching up, on June 14th, about a month ago, Mitch McConnell had gone missing. He had actually fallen ill, essentially, but also becoming unconscious. So from that point, June 14th, Mitch McConnell, ill, unconscious. We don't know how or why exactly, but we do know that he was rushed to a hospital and then he was never seen since. Now, after week, nobody heard from Mitch McConnell, not even his constituents. So just this idea that you can, get sick, fall ill, and then disappear is not good for our democracy. We elect our representatives to fight for us in Congress so we can, not only protect our rights, but also fight for a better future. Not only that, but our tax dollars are paying for this. So right now, those in Kentucky and the rest of us around the country, our money is going toward paying for senators like Mitch McConnell to hide from the public, not give a transparent update on their whereabouts or their health, and then lastly, pretty much lay around like a vegetable in the hospital. And that is not okay. Not suitable for democracy. So the whole news here is that there was a photo released showing Elaine Chao with Mitch McConnell, and it looks very sus. If you analyze the photo real quickly, I'll put it on the screen for those watching on YouTube, and those of you who are tuning in on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, Google it when you can. So with this photo, you'll notice, number one, you see both Elaine Chao and Mitch McConnell looking very, very pristine and even younger than they were just weeks ago. Seems pretty odd for someone who would have been ailing, especially at a time when things are very stressful for his health. Number two, we notice that Mitch McConnell is in, his burgundy checker down with his denim jeans. Now, I don't know about you, but when I'm in a hospital bed, that's usually not the clothes I'm wearing. So to make him seem more like casual and like he's comfortable, I could see this being a very much staged photo op, especially when patients in the hospital don't wear those kind of clothes. It's to project the image that he is healthy and fine, which makes me think that's probably not the case. If you also notice his wife, Elaine Chao, again, she's looking very much younger than typical. We see her hand behind his back. Now, why would she have her hand behind his back? Normally, when you love someone, you put it around their shoulder, right? I think because it's lower, it gives me the idea that she's probably trying to prop him up. For whatever reason, we may never know. Now, on top of that, the other, speculation swirling the internet is the newspaper that Mitch McConnell had in his hand. Now, apparently it was from, I think it was that weekend to make it appear that it was up to date. It's a recent edition. But people were calling out how the text in the article was very blurry or fuzzy. Because if you notice, Elaine Chao and Mitch McConnell, both their images look crystal clear, but then the image with the text is very blurry. And by that distance of focus, you would think all of it would be clear in and of itself. So it could have been AI generated, could have been a fake newspaper, and they just photoshopped in the correct date of the article. So many questions to leave behind with this photo op. And it actually leaves us leaving with more questions than less, especially the timing. If this came right after Lindsey Graham's sudden death, where, if you recall, media outlets were saying this was a sudden illness from Lindsey Graham, even though NBC News reported that it was cardiac arrest, where he had actually passed. Now, think of that happening the night before, with it coupling with the news of Mitch McConnell. Their team had to put out this photo op quickly. Number one, it was about a month after their June 14th disappearance. Number two, it was on the heels of Lindsey Graham falling ill at age 71. Mitch McConnell's 84. So the fact that now we have older, octogenarian members of the Senate, becoming ill, passing away, this is not good and does not instill confidence from the American people to trust their government. And last but not least, if we think about Mitch McConnell, he has been so power hungry, especially since he broke precedent, ensuring that President Obama would not get his own his own Supreme Court hearing for his nominated pick. That was just something that just told me, like, cannot trust this guy. He's playing hardball, and he refuses to at least let the first black president make his mark on the Supreme Court. So that tells me everything I need to know about Mitch McConnell. I don't trust Mr. McConnell for a second with this photo op. And hey, let's say maybe it is real. Maybe he really was in the jeans and the checkerboard and all that stuff. I doubt that he lasts much longer than this. 84 years old. We know that Mitch has not only become unconscious, he's frozen in interviews, and he's toward the end of his ropes. Part of all of this and why he's pushing to make everything seem fine and dandy is because the deadline is August 3rd. August 3rd will be when, if Mitch McConnell can no longer serve, then an appointment must be made in Mitch McConnell's place. There's only 3 ways that a United States representative can, no longer serve. It's either 1, they resign and step down from the role. 2, they pass away, just natural causes, just poof, gone, or horrible accident, so what have you. And then 3, it's if they are expelled from Congress. We know that Congress isn't going to expel him because they won't have the votes. We know that he's not going to resign ever, but we also know that he is hanging on to dear life, quite literally. So until that actually happens, then we will actually see Mitch McConnell step down. But fortunately, Democratic governor of Kentucky, Andy Beshear, has been challenging Mitch McConnell on his BS. Beshear has called for more valid updates to ensure that, the phone calls that these Republican senators are having for 20 minutes with McConnell are real. Beshear wants to have more updates, even whether it's a diagnosis on what's happening in terms of even a video, just something that gives him more confidence that, the senator from Kentucky who's been in Congress for so long can actually do his job. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rep. AOC, has also made comments saying that we don't even know how this is legal right now, that we have someone who cannot be trusted, who's just, running the clock, not doing their job, but just, still getting paid taxpayer dollars. Absolutely unacceptable. And we have to put term limits and age limits on these positions of power, especially when these folks are getting so old, they can't even do their job. Imagine if any of us had just, June 14th, just poof, disappeared, no whereabouts, no transparency, no update. A lot of us would be out of work. So because of that, it's very unfair that the members of Congress feel like they can live on one standard, but the rest of American workers cannot. Now, interestingly enough, quick little history tidbit. The reason why I also think Mitch McConnell is faking and lying about this photo op, this is not the first time this has happened in history. Quick trip down memory lane. Back in October of 1919, when President Woodrow Wilson, who was a Democrat, had fallen ill to a stroke. And when he had that stroke, this wasn't toward the end of his time in the White House, and he still had a few years to go. So his wife, Edith, along with his doctor, made the arrangements to ensure that President Wilson would still be able to govern using them as proxy. Now, when there were times when senators or foreign diplomats wanted to see the president, they staged these different arrangements. For example, because during the stroke, the left side of Woodrow Wilson's face was paralyzed, his face would droop, his arm couldn't move. So what they wound up doing, they wound up putting a large bed cover over his arm so he wouldn't notice his arm. They also kept the lights very dim in the room. That way you couldn't see the dysfunctionality of his face or the drooping. So just the idea that the First Lady of the United States helped stage this, right? This would only, 2 things. One, obviously this would be so detrimental to her husband's legacy, but also more importantly, this was to also preserve the confidence from the American public to really think that, yes, Woodrow Wilson was still in charge. Because don't forget, this was just a year after that he had passed he helped supported and then get ratified the woman's right to vote, the 19th Amendment, but then also America was still a part of World War I. So Edith Wilson managed to govern, using Woodrow Wilson, right, her husband, by making sure that the most important documents got to his desk. She would make sure that she would arrange the proper meetings for him and really ensure that he could still, run the country. Now, even when it came down to like signing documents, he would hold the pen, but then she would hold his hand to ensure that the pen made his signature. So because this has already happened in our American government at the very top levels back, over 100 years ago, that tells me very much that this is no secret to Mitch McConnell. So he is definitely lying about his condition and trying to instill confidence and trust in the American public, which we know he has already broken. So honestly, Mitch, time's up. We're done. Make your move. And hopefully, you and Lindsey Graham can enjoy whatever you need to do in the next chapter of your lives, because the harm you've caused in the American public, it's time to go. Short and sweet. You're done. Thank you so much for watching part 3 of episode 49. If you like what you heard and want to learn more, then make sure to subscribe to Not Suitable for Democracy on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Now, make sure to check out part 4, where we talk about the latest polls in the Michigan Senate race.